The number one safety in America is set to make his commitment on Saturday. Our recruiting expert gives his prediction. It's on today's episode of Locked on LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe and I'll let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked on LSU. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. The number one safety in America, Jonah Williams, will make his announcement on Saturday. Our guy, Shea Dixon, will give you the absolute latest. Also, had a chance to talk to former All SEC linebacker Darry Beckwith, who talked about the role for Harold Perkins this year and why he's a believer in West weeks. You'll hear that. But let me begin with a little bit of news out of La La Land. Of course, LSU is going to open up the season a week from Sunday against Southern Cal. And not a tremendous surprise, but it is now official. USC has named Miller Moss their starting quarterback. And this is just another layer of weird and eerie with LSU and USC. I don't know that I can remember a time, certainly not for these non-traditional season opening games that LSU has played, where we have seen such a parallel between LSU and their opponent. I mean, I can think back through time. LSU in 2011 against Oregon, of course, contrasting styles. Oregon's blur offense against that great LSU defense, and that was an LSU offense that really pounded teams into submission. You could go to 2018 with that Miami team that wasn't very good, but an LSU team finding itself with Joe Burrow. I mean, we could just go throughout the years of all these openers. 2010 against North Carolina, a team that had so many players suspended for that opener. 2013 against TCU. Was it 2012? The year's running. Maybe it's 2012. TCU out in Arlington. Anyway, the point being, the Wisconsin games. We've seen a lot of these. Maybe the Wisconsin games actually were parallel in the Les Miles era. But you know how odd this is? And I'm going to get to Miller Moss in a second because there is a point. So LSU and USC had the last two Heisman Trophy winners, both their quarterbacks. Those two players, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, went 1-2 in this year's draft. Both teams a year ago were atrocious defensively. LSU was 108th nationally. USC was 119th nationally. Both fired their defensive coordinators. Both feel like they have far more talent than the level at which they played a year ago. So they're expecting more defensively with a more sound defensive scheme. Like, you could just do a blind resume of LSU and USC and just take the names off, just redact the names. Listen to an LSU radio host, a USC radio host or podcaster, redact the names, and you could almost be having the same conversation. And then this Garrett Nussmeier Miller Moss comp comes into play, which is so bizarre. You know, we have talked so much about Garrett Nussmeier and how it's time to ride the Nuss bus. Because he's waited his turn, and how atypical that is for a guy that's that highly sought after, that high of a recruit at that position to wait his turn. You know, Garrett Nussmeier was a 4-star. Miller Moss was a 4-star. Both were quarterbacks in the class of 2021. Garrett Nussmeier is 6'2", 200 pounds. Miller Moss is 6'2", 205 pounds. Both guys were backups a year ago to Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks, and the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback opted out of the bowl game, and so both made their first career start. In that bowl game, both threw for over 300 yards. I mean, it's bizarre. Last season, Nussmeier threw for 591, Moss for 681, 4 touchdowns to 7, each threw 1 interception. I mean, both of these guys are in identical situations. They were highly regarded coming out of high school. They are guys that went to their school of choice, waited their turn, sat behind Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks, and ultimately now have their turn as a fourth-year player. So as an LSU fan, you're very optimistic because Nuss checks all the boxes, and he has the moxie and the IQ and the arm strength. Well, Miller Moss has all that as well. But the question about Nuss is the same question about Miller Moss. Can he do it? Because we haven't seen him. He just hasn't played. So both of these guys are going to take the field in Vegas a week from Sunday on almost identical trajectories. The same reason that you have optimism for Garrett Nussmeier, SC fans have optimism for Miller Moss. For the same reason, if you have some hesitation or trepidation about Garrett Nussmeier, USC fans have that same trepidation about Miller Moss because it's just the unknown of not having seen him play yet. But start to get those answers for certain a week from Sunday. And it was so interesting. If you read ESPN.com, Heather Dinich, who does a great job, has covered the college football playoff since its inception in 2014. She did her first ever bracketology. And it makes sense, right? I mean, you got a 12-team playoff, so you're going to have a bracket that's kind of updated as you go on. It's not just bowl projections anymore. It's bracket projections. So I guess we have bracketology Heather now. But it was so interesting because she had Georgia number 1 and Ohio State number 2. No surprise there. She had Florida State 3 as the ACC champ, and then Utah 4 as the Big 12 champion. And then Texas at 5, also had Ole Miss at 8, Bama at 9. So 4 SEC teams in a 12-team playoff. But listed those first 12 and then listed the first 4 out. Here were the first 4 out: LSU, Missouri, Tennessee, Oklahoma. The first 4 out, all from the SEC. I'm going to keep saying it. The nightmare scenario that could unfold and will likely unfold. And it may not be for LSU. Hopefully it's not for LSU. But the nightmare scenario is you have a 10-2 SEC team that's left out because the G5 gets an auto bid. And in Heather Dinich's scenario, in her first bracketology ever, LSU is that team that would get bitten by the G5 auto bid. Let's hope it doesn't play out that way. Tigers take a big step to avoiding that reality by beating USC and quarterback Miller Moss in the opener in Las Vegas a week from Sunday. Okay. I wanted to get that little tidbit there because I do have some recruiting stuff to get to. Our buddy Shea Dixon, we have a chance to visit with him every single Tuesday. And I want you to hear 2 parts of that conversation. One, when it's 2 commitments that are going to be made on Saturday and 2 defensive backs. Aiden Anding out of Ruston and Jonah Williams out of Ball High School in Galveston, the number 1 safety in America. Shea tells you exactly how he thinks those are going to go when we come back. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. Man, we're moving through the summer, and I love, I've told you all summer long how much I love going to Major League Baseball games. The smell of the grass, the crack of the bat, the pop of the mitt, all of it, the sounds of the game. It's an amazing way to spend the day. An ice cold beer, a bag of peanuts. Got to go see Paul Skeens pitch against the Astros in Houston a few weeks back. Man, if you want to get to a Major League ballpark, you got to get to Game Time. Now, listen, it's not just Major League Baseball. College football is upon us, and I just love going to live events. Sports, love going to concerts. Might actually try to make it up to Arlington coming up here in a few weeks to go watch Green Day and Smashing Pumpkins in Arlington at Globe Life. Boy, I love to go to live events, and Game Time has been such a game changer. If you're not familiar, Game Time has a 50% off Labor Day offer for the Diamondbacks and Dodgers. You can check that out. No matter where you are, you can see great live events. Browse through the seats. You can see your pictures of your actual seat, views from your actual seat when you open up the Game Time app. Lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection. I mentioned the Diamondbacks Labor Day offer information. 50% off tickets to Dodgers at Diamondbacks on Labor Day. That's exclusive on Game Time with limited availability and supply. So get your tickets while they last. Of course, LSU is going to be playing in Las Vegas on that Sunday. Why not wake up, get to Arizona, not far, on Labor Day and watch the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. You can always do it with the Game Time app. So download the Game Time app if you haven't done it yet. You got to do it. It's just a great it's a great asset for any fan that likes to watch live events. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account. Redeem with the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. That's Game Time. And also, of course, if you're going to go to the game, you might as well bet on it as well. And you know who we're going to tell you about when it comes to sports betting. It's our friends over at FanDuel. Look, you've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we got a little something different for you right now. Now through September the 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account, current form of payment. You can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to download America's #1 sportsbook. Again, that's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Thanks for hanging out with us here. I want to get to this recruiting chat in just a quick second. But, of course, I want to remind you college football is back. Not too late to catch up before the season kicks off. SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12. You can get all the info from Locked On's stable of college experts by subscribing to the Locked On College Football podcast. Who has a chance to make the playoff, what teams will cause chaos in their new conferences, everything you need to know all in one place. Be sure to follow and subscribe to the Locked On College Football podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, let me not delay any longer. I've held you off this far, and I apologize for that. But had a chance to visit with Shea Dixon, as we do every single Tuesday on my radio show. And there's 2 announcements coming this weekend from defensive backs. One is Aiden Anding, who's a cornerback out of Ruston in Louisiana. And the other is Jonah Williams. I'm not going to make you wait for it. I'll start with Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams, as you probably know, is a 5-star. He is a top 10 player at any position in the country. He's the #1 safety in America, and he is a dual sport star. He is equal parts Jamal Adams in football and Connor Griffin in baseball. The guy that's the 5-tool baseball player. I had one longtime National League scout tell me he's Dion with better size and power. I mean, the next Dion. That says it all. You're talking about an elite 2-sport star who is elite at both of them. And Jonah Williams is going to have a difficult decision to make. LSU, Texas A&M, Texas. Well, I asked Shea Dixon here now, just 4 days away from the announcement at the time we spoke. What's the latest?
I think this was one that, and I don't want to say, it's coming down to NIL, but when you're in the final week of a recruitment, that's something that gets talked about a lot, even more so when you're a 2-sport athlete and the other sport's baseball, where an MLB draft comes up, and then you're factoring in that, and, these conversations, I can tell you from talking to different schools, do include things like, okay, slot value of baseball next summer, where could he go? Does that need to be part of NIL discussions? So this one has a little bit more to it, than just a guy who plays football, but at the same time, LSU's NIL is in a good spot right now, at least in terms of how they're approaching it. I think they're so far ahead in terms of prepping for when we move to a rev share and how they'll approach it and be in a good spot with that transition. So you don't just happen into Pickett and Underwood and all these elite players. Yes, they recruit very well. Yes, they make the pitch of what they've always done. Come here, be developed. Look at the NFL players. Look at the staff. I'll play in the SEC. Play for this fan base that's as rabid as any in the country. So all of that matters very, very much, and much of it more than NIL. I mean, you can listen to guys like Underwood who said, I don't really care, because I know that if I go down there and I do what I'm supposed to do, I'll make a lot of money in the NFL. So is just a distraction for me if I think about NIL and my decision. So for Jonah, I think it will ultimately come down to, hey, what do you want to do? And he wants to play baseball and football in college. He's got a chance at that at LSU, Texas, A&M. All the staffs have offers out for both. We know Jay Johnson even did an in-home with him. So LSU's rolled out the red carpet here. I think that LSU, Matt, has recruited him the best out of everyone from start to finish. I firmly believe that. I've got people at other schools who feel that that's the case. The one tricky thing for me, look, I always thought it would be LSU A&M. He's a kid from Ball. He's in Galveston. And till that staff shakeup with the baseball staff at A&M, now Texas has that buzz. They weren't really always in the picture. My fear for if I'm an LSU coach or an LSU fan here is that, all right, we've done great. Here we are. We're recruiting him all the way down to the end. He wants to be here. We want him. But how badly? And look, they need him. But Texas might need him more. And when you think about need and perception and the NIL era and the pressure that coming into the SEC that Sark's under, we did this a year ago, right, with Colin Simmons, where Texas had gone I don't want to make it up, but it was a long time. It was almost a decade without signing the number one player in Texas. And that was their chance, Colin Simmons. Now, Jonah Williams isn't the number one player in Texas, but I'll give you the rundown on their top five. DeCorian Moore, one-time LSU commits number one. He's going to Oregon, not Texas. Devin Sanchez out of the North Shore is going to Ohio State, not Texas. Ty Haywood's number 4. He's going to Bama, not Texas. And Michael Fasusi, number 5, is going to be announcing his decision. Everyone thought he was going to Texas. All the picks are now on OU. The one I skipped over there was number 3, Jonah Williams. So you even go beyond that. Matt, number 6, Keelan Russell, quarterback, going to Bama. You have to get down to 7 in Texas for Khalil Lockett, who recently committed, the receiver. Is Texas really going to let the top 6 players in the state all get away? I think that with their backs against the wall, they're going to do all they can to try to make this one happen for this week. I think Texas needs this win more than LSU does, but that won't change LSU's push for how hard they're going to go after him and try to get this win on Saturday.
All right, Shea, I got a couple. It is maybe not the best news we were hoping for. We'll wait and see what happens on Saturday. And the best comp I can give you to what Shea just said there is Terry Bussey. If you remember a year ago, LSU had flipped 3 A&M commits. It was Cohen Eccles, Weston Davis, Dom McKinley. I might be leaving another one off, actually. Gabe Relaford, 4. LSU flipped 4 A&M commits, and then they had their eyes on Terry Bussey. And they got Bussey to hold off his decision from the early signing period to the late signing period. He gave an official visit to LSU, and the Tigers were trending. And ultimately, A&M looked in like, we're not losing another one. And so they got really committed financially. And there comes a point for everybody when someone's really committed financially to that level that you just don't say no. And that might be, it sounds like that might be where Texas is with Jonah Williams. So we'll see if that's ultimately where it goes. But I agree with Shea. LSU's recruited him tremendous, not only in football, but in baseball as well. Probably as good, if not better than anybody. But sometimes you can't make the kid make a decision, but we'll see how it goes. Now, Tigers are very likely, however, to get good news on Saturday, even if it's not Jonah Williams, because Aiden Anding out of Ruston, a cornerback that LSU likes a lot, Shea says, is likely going to pick the Tigers.
Let's keep it rolling. I do. My pick is in for LSU. I think that they came with the offer over the summer. Texas, Arkansas, the other 2 finalists had their offers in, and that's easier for out-of-state schools to do. We know how that goes with Louisiana. They take their time to do evaluations, and Anding didn't come to camp, so I think had he come to camp, he would have earned it on the spot. But right when camp season ended, they went ahead and made the offer, and he was going to commit to Texas. That was the buzz that weekend, and he said, well, let me press pause on that. Came down for the Bayou Splash recruiting event at the end of July, and now is lining up for an announcement this weekend. And look, they just signed a Ruston player this past cycle. They've got plenty of connections on that staff, some former players on that staff, and I think Anding has always kind of wanted that LSU offer, and now that the dust has settled on him getting it, him kind of learning more about things, that he'll get on board. So barring some twists and turns, which I guess can happen in recruiting, obviously, I do expect Aiden Anding, who you talk to North Louisiana people, Matt, and they will tell you, hey, I sit out there in the stands and watch Ruston, one of the best defenses in the state. Anding's the real deal. So this would be a pretty big addition for them, and give you 3 guys then at corner who you could come in and feel really good about kind of the future of that room after Biden, need, yes, but something you don't want to do, having to rely on the portal for corners in back-to-back years during Kelly's first 2 years here. And he didn't as much this year, and we're seeing P.J. Woodland, and they've got high hopes for Michael Turner, and we're going to see stamps get developed. But I think they're moving back with Corey here to saying, hey, go find the best high school corners out there that you feel are in Louisiana or elsewhere. And it's kind of like some things never change. If I told you Corey Raymond went out and got 3 corners and they're all from different states, you would tell me East Texas, Florida, and Louisiana, and that would be.
And that's about how it played out, or it's playing out right now, of course, with DJ Pickett in the class representing Florida. Aiden Anding would certainly be the guy from Louisiana. It looks like that's going to play out this weekend, but we shall see. Of course, we'll talk about it right here on Locked On LSU. Okay, had a chance to visit with former LSU All SEC linebacker Darry Beckwith, who was a 2008 Butkus Award finalist, one of the 3 best linebackers in college football. And Darry's got great perspective on the position. I talked to him about both Harold Perkins and West Weeks. Wait until you hear how high Darry Beckwith is on the older Weeks, who's entering his final season and might just be ready to make a splash. It's Locked On LSU, your team every day. It's a funny name, but when we talk about getting real cash in your pocket, nothing funny about it. Look, we all buy stuff. All of us, we all buy stuff. We go to retailers, and there's thousands of retailers and great retailers all over the country, the world, and on the internet. And when you use Ibotta lets you get actual cash back every time you shop. You can earn on hundreds of items, from groceries and beauty supplies, even toys. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 a year just for using this app. It's not points, which maybe don't amount to much. With Ibotta, you are earning cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, to PayPal, gift cards. All you got to do is add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and there it is. The money is yours. You can save on over 2,400 brands, shop at more than 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores and Lowe's and Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, so much more. It's time you join the more than 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. So right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta and using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. That's one word altogether, Locked On College. So go to the App Store, Google Play, download the free Ibotta app, and start earning cash back. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege, that's IBOTTA, in the Google Play or App Store, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for Ibotta. We're all really excited about college football season creeping closer. You know, last season was disastrous defensively for LSU. There's no denying that. We all know it. We all lived through it. The question is, how much better can they be? Well, Harold Perkins is a pretty good launching point for how good a defense can be when you have a preseason first-team All-American as Perk and Will Campbell were both named on Tuesday. Well, I had a chance to chat with Darry Beckwith, former All-SEC, first-team All-SEC linebacker, came in Les Miles' first class in 2005 and left after a senior year in 2008 when the defense was quite honestly very bad, despite him being a very good player, kind of like Harold Perkins was a year ago. And I asked Darry about Harold Perkins and how much they're moving him around, because we've talked so much about making him an off-ball linebacker, but when we go out to practice, it's pretty evident. They're not sticking Harold Perkins just right in the middle of their defense to take on guards and try to fill gaps. And Darry kind of explained why he thinks that is.
You want to make sure they put him in situations where he can win. You have to, when you get to this level, you have to make sure that you match the guy's skill set. Harold Perkins is probably one of the best inside linebackers as far as when it comes to blitz. If you're able to blitz him, if you're able to get him on matchups that's favorable towards him, you're going to do that. So by moving him around, what you're doing, you're allowing the offense to make adjustments as well. So let's say you have Harold Perkins lined up in the A-gap pre-snap. Before the ball is snapped, he may move him outside. And what that does, that allows the offense to make audibles, and then you get a matchup with Harold Perkins one-on-one with the running back. So who are you going to take on a one-on-one matchup, Harold Perkins or the running back? I think I'm going to take Harold Perkins.
Yeah.
So when you do that, when you move them around, you make the offense make adjustments, and you also make the offense maybe do pass protection with something that they probably shouldn't have done. And then you free someone else up because the offense may think Harold Perkins is blitzing. He may be dropping in coverage, and then you can send someone else. So it's all about manipulation. It's all about having your poker face on defense. Defense is not complicated at all. If you can get 11 guys playing on one string, 11 guys playing on one accord, and manipulate the offense and have your poker face on offense and not show your hand, then I think you can be successful. I do believe Blake Baker would be able to do that.
It's true. We've seen Harold Perkins line up off ball. We have seen him line up as an end. We've seen him drop in coverage, and I think we're going to see him do all those things against USC. So maybe the concerns that I and many others had about moving Harold Perkins back inside might have been a little premature, considering how Blake Baker is looking to adjust and use and be creative in how he uses Harold Perkins. The other interesting thing is that before fall camp, Blake Baker did an interview with Jacob Hester and T-Bob Hebert on Off the Bench on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, and said point blank he felt like he had four starters at linebacker, and he singled out Whit Weeks and said that's the guy nobody's talking about, but he sees him as a starter. And I wondered if that was maybe lip service, but Darry Beckwith relayed something from when Brian Kelly first showed up on campus and how much Darry, really likes West Weeks.
You got a whole new coaching staff with different eyes. You have a coaching staff who's not set in their ways. You have a coaching staff that realize, look, guys, we can go deep down this roster and play a lot of guys who have talent. I remember I went to a practice with Brian Kelly's first year, and I was over by the linebackers. And this is when West Weeks transferred from Virginia. Mm-hmm. And I watched him move, Matt. I was like, this guy's 6'3", 230, and he moves like a safety. Look, when I played from 05 to 08, I hope I'm not, making anyone feel any kind of way, but the linebackers I played with, we didn't move like that at 6'3", we didn't. And this guy was moving fluid. He moved like a safety. So when I see things like that, and especially today's games with the RPO offense, you have to have linebackers that can run and play in space, and this guy can do that. So for my eye test, I know what Blake Baker is saying. When he sees this guys go through drills, he sees this guy blitz, and the way he moves, I have to get him on the field. And you cannot say that you can't get these guys on the field because you can absolutely do it. Even when I was playing, they had a linebacker at Georgia by the name of Ronnie Curran, who was an All-American. Ronnie Curran actually was a substitute going into his senior year. So you can get guys on the field. Kendall Beck was my cousin at one point. He was subbing out the game. Because you can get guys on the field if you're willing to do that and if you're willing not to be stuck in your own ways and prideful. And I think what you're seeing from this defense, they're gonna come at you multiple different ways with multiple different packages, and I believe they're going to get out the quarterback. That's the one thing that you can do if you're not as talented. I'm not saying these guys are not talented, but if you're trying to get back to a great defense, then you got to bring pressure. I think last year in Missouri, he had 19 different people who had sacks. That's a lot of people. Yeah. If you have 19 people on defense who had a sack, and that's why Missouri was successful last year on defense, and I think you're going to see that same attack this year with LSU.
I was thinking whenever Darry was talking about West Weeks, when we got to see that scrimmage period at the goal line, the first team offense started first and goal from the 4, and the 2 linebackers on the field were Harold Perkins and West Weeks. And on second down, West Weeks came up and got a run stuff at the line of scrimmage. So, yeah, I do believe they're going to play all 4, West and Whit Weeks, Harold Perkins, and Greg Penn. They're going to interchangeably use them based on situation and who's best on the field in certain situations. Blake Baker is going to have to coach his behind off this year to maximize what he has because he doesn't have a defense full of All-Americans. This isn't a secondary that's got Tyrann Mathieu, Mo Claiborne, Eric Reed, and Brandon Taylor with Barkevius Mingo and Sam Montgomery and Benny Logan and Michael Brockers and Kevin Minter. I mean, think about that defense. It's absurd. So we'll talk about the 2019 defense with all the NFL players all over the field. This ain't that team. But if you maximize what you do have, they can be dramatically better than they were a year ago and help you win games. It might just start a week from Sunday against Miller Moss and the USC Trojans. Now, that was a way to bring it full circle. And of course, before we get out of here, we thank you for making Locked On LSU your first listen. Now go check out Locked On College Football. From NIL deals to the never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. So find the link to Locked On College Football in the description of this episode, so you don't even need to search for it. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, that's going to do it for us here. Thanks so much for being part of the show. Do us a favor on podcast, smash that like button, subscribe up to the channel. Rate us, leave a review. And if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, smash the like button, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked On LSU, your team every day.